Live from the J.C. Newman Cigar Studio in Boston, Massachusetts, welcome to the Smokin Tobacco Show with your hosts, Matt Tobacco and Smokin Nicole.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the Smokin Tobacco Show. My name is Matt Tobacco from SmokinTobacco.com, and, it's funny. It's the first show, and I don't get to say it, so I'm just going to wait and skip right over that part and just go with, I'm joined once again by my good friend, Mr. Jonathan M. Carney, Vice President of Sales of La Flor Dominicana. Hashtag Daddy's Back, hashtag LFD. We were both at PCA this past weekend, La Flor Dominicana. For those of you who want to know what Daddy's Back is all about, Daddy's Back, or hashtag Daddy's Back, is the official hashtag that we created. That's a shirt that I made for John. We were supposed to do something at the show with that, but I'll explain what happened with that later, because our trade show experience did not go as planned, but as I said, I'll get into that later. But LFD made their debut for the first time since IPCPR 2019, and they had one hell of a show. And they brought with them a couple of new things, one of which being the Golden Bull NFT, which was on display with the gold bullion humidor. The other was Lito Gomez Jr.'s first cigar, the Solis, or Soleil, I don't know. John will have to give us the official wording on that. But they brought it with them. So they came back. They have new cigars. I'm going to smoke it for the first time here on the show tonight. I don't know how well my flavor palette is going to be since many of you know, a lot of us that went to PCA came back with COVID-19. So that's why Nicole is not here with us tonight. She is very sick with it. I'm very mildly symptomed, so I think maybe I had it already. Maybe my second go is a lot more mild. I don't know. So that's where we're at. Just to give you a quick fill-in, but now I'll let John talk. John, how are you?
Well, I don't have COVID, but I have somewhat lost my voice. So if anybody's listening, I do sound a little different. I kind of like it, to be honest. Other than the pubescent version of it, where I have a little scratch or a squeak, but I do enjoy the deep voice. By the way, I think the opening video that I sent to you today, I don't know which one you used,
It's
but
the
it had
longer version.
no, it said special guest Craig Vanderslice. Craig Vanderslice will not be on the show this evening. It will be just me. Um, so we'll have to put the new version, but we're all a little bit out of sorts. But yeah, I mean, everybody, uh, you know, you take people to a trade show, you put them in one place close to each other. It's happened with all sorts of corporate functions around the country. My wife got it at a corporate function. I got it from her corporate function. So fortunately, I had COVID just very recently, less than a month ago. So hopefully that provided me some super immunity there. But for the most part, it seems like everything's mild with everyone. But I think everybody's just a little more hyper aware of any type of colds and
Right.
sicknesses too. And everybody got something that went to this show, and it has nothing to do with PCA. There's no reason for people to not go to those shows, but I think it would just be a representation of people to try to get as much sleep as they can get when they're at the show. Try to be as healthy as possible leading up to it, because in all likelihood, people over the years have probably got things every year at the show. And you don't think anything of it. We're just hypersensitive now. But it was a great show, man. It was good to be back. We were on top of, I don't know if this is the same reason you're saying, we were going to do a fun little segment with Daddy's Back because Lito's got a shirt too. His is actually like literally, I think, like 5 sizes smaller than mine, which is nuts. But I was buried, man. Like I was buried from the moment you were the first person that stopped at the booth. So you came there right at 10 o'clock. You and Nicole were there. You and your wife, Nicole, were there.
Mm.
So
Mm.
so you came right at 10 o'clock. So that first hour of the show was when it was the VIP stay and play guests. So people that stayed on property at the host hotel got in the hour early. At about 10:10, the booth got quite busy. Right when you guys were kind of done your 10:15 walk around with Lito Jr. and Tony, we were buried. So I didn't even get any screen time with you guys, and I didn't get a lot of screen time the whole time. that we were there, and it was pretty much gun ho from the moment the show floor opened until probably I'd say Monday afternoon at about 2 or 3 o'clock. And you're smoking the new Soli, but I'm smoking something quite special tonight. I'm smoking the Forbidden X BBMF.
The
And the
Maduro.
reason I'm smoking the Maduro, yeah. Is that why the purple's on it?
That is why the purple is on it, yes.
Okay. I'm smoking this because of this is what we smoked after your wedding, after we had the reception and whatnot.
This is true.
This is what I had for the wedding, and I had got back to the smoking lounge that we were smoking at earlier, so I didn't end up smoking that night because by the time I got to this, it was late in the evening, and I didn't want to waste it. So I'm going to smoke it now. So I'm going to celebrate that at the same time. And I lost my voice, so what better thing to do than light up a big bad motherfucker?
Yeah. Is that your first one? Have you had one before?
Ah, dude. I think I've had the natural. I've had the natural. It was a long time ago. It was probably like 12, 13 years ago.
Yeah, I have a box of them, and when we were talking about what we were gonna smoke after, there was a lot of choices. But I had those, and I brought three, one for each of us, and I did give one to John. Nicole and I smoked ours already. It's funny, I smoked mine with Carlito, because Carlito was there, and we first got there, he was there, we were talking, and I pulled it out, and I cut it and lit it in front of him, and he's like, oh shit. I'm like, wow, I have to celebrate, like, it's special. And I gave one to you, hold on, I gave one to you.
I know what you're to say.
And he looked at everyone and he goes, this fucking guy just handing them out like they're nothing. And I was like, Carlito, I mean, he was there. He was the best man. He's my best friend.
Hold
and
on.
he's like, all right.
I walked up to get my cigar. You guys had changed up. I'm still dressed in the wedding gear. I've got a boutonniere flower on. And I walk up to grab the cigar and I'm like, hey, I stuck my head around the corner. I'm like, hey, Carlito, how's it going? And I stuck my hand out to grab the cigar from you, and he like questioned it. He was like, no, these are special. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, dude, I was in the freaking wedding. I'm like,
yeah.
There's three of these cigars for a reason. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, and that was part of your wedding present, for being there. I brought something really special. So I'm like, well, John gets one, for being there. And he was like, he's just handing them out like they're nothing. And I was like, well, no, I mean, he was entitled to one from the beginning. But anyway, yeah, it was just funny. And then he just laughed. He was like, no, I'm just kidding.
I think sometimes, I mean, I came up randomly, and I think sometimes he forgets who I am, not because of he's not paying attention. He just sees a lot of people. But I look different in different occasions. Like
you do.
If you ever get to meet me, and sometimes I'm shaved, and sometimes I'm bald, sometimes I've got hair, sometimes it's spiked up the product, sometimes it's real short, sometimes I'm in a t-shirt or a robe, and in the trade show I'm dressed up. So I don't think the last time that I interacted with Carlito, I was in any environment they would recognize me. And it was a quick internet, but it was funny because it was like, he was kind of like, dude, pump the brakes. What's going on here?
Yeah, he did. He was like, whoa. And he didn't know. And I'm just like, it's okay. Like, no, he gets one. Trust me. This was already determined. Is it good though? It better be good. I'll tell you that fucking cigar is strong, because after I smoked that, when I went back to my hotel room, Nicole and I couldn't sleep. We were like wired awake. I was like, dude, I can't sleep tonight.
I'm gonna let you know what I think of it as soon as it gets into that spot where it opens right up.
Yeah.
Because it's tough to judge when you're just smoking the tip on a figurado like this. But I'm really excited about it. It's excellent. It does taste good already. It's got a nice, strong sweetness to it. And when you blind tasted me when I was up in Massachusetts at the studio with the añejo, this doesn't have any of that barbecue type earth that I was getting from that. So this is a lot of smooth sweetness. So I'm excited to see how this changes as I get into the cigar, and especially since it's tapered. It should end up being quite a full-bodied smoking experience.
Now, What age statement is that? Is that 2016 or a 17? I can't remember. I think it's the 16.
This is 2016. 16.
Yeah, I mean, so you're talking 6 years. It's a good vintage right there, and I've had the box for a little while too. So, yeah, they got a 6-year vintage on that too, which is interesting.
It's very cedary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it burning okay?
Yeah, I'm just getting it going. It's super humid here, dude. It literally just rained, and it was I had it perfect because this is coming from Vegas. So I just left my cigars out overnight here in Orlando for like one night because I got back last night, and everything's up to like 90% humidity. So no, it's burning great.
Oh, that's good. What was I gonna say? Yeah, I mean those are fantastic. I mean, out of the Purple Maduro line, I mean you have the Purple Rain, you have that, you have the Taurus-able, the El Scorpio, and I think they added one more stuff. Jose Blanco's actually with us tonight, so Jose, you can remind me. But I think there's one more size.
So before we get into this a little bit, before we talk about what you're smoking, I just read the story that there's a trademark issue with Fuente in general, and about the X. I'm going to bring it up right now.
Yeah.
I'm reading all these comments about people are like, why is there drama? Why? This isn't drama. It's literally business. They're using a term knowingly, even if they say they're not, a gigantic X, which they've made it bigger. It's not a multiplication sign. I'm not a lawyer, but it's not, and I'm not saying this have friendships with the Fuente. I hate it when there's trademark issues and the comment sections come out and they're like, why are these people doing this? Why can't we get along? This is a business. And if you don't protect your brands and don't protect things, then what's the point? What is LFD going to come out with the LFD Opus X next year? Like, that's not okay. You've got to protect your business. And if somebody infringes on it, it's up for the courts to decide what's going on. That's why you have trademarks on things. And there's tons of businesses in the entire planet that have trademark disputes on a daily basis. So anyone who's giving the Fuente family a hard time in the comment section, you're just being a keyboard warrior because you've got to protect your business. Like, this is the purpose of it, is to run a business and successfully turn a profit, to earn money for yourselves, create jobs for other people. And I just don't understand, and I can't grasp how anyone would think that that's like sour grapes. Now, the court will decide what's right and wrong in that situation, and then the Fuente family in reverse will have to accept that fact, and general have to accept that fact. But the last 2 days of reading this stuff, I'm like, what are people thinking anything other than if you have a trademark and something comes close to it, you ought to protect yourselves? And we've had it happen to us in the reverse side, and we've not been sour grapes. You know, something that came up where we had to change the name of something or alter a product. That's just how business works. And if you do something that's close to it, the courts are going to have to decide. But it's not being petty. It's not being a jerk. It's not being childish. It's being studious towards your business and being attentive to protecting what's been built over decades and over 100 years with Fuente. So anyway, I just don't comprehend why people think that's nasty. I don't think if you talk to most people in person, they would think that way. It's probably just a comment section. But I will say that X on that new CAO is very different than the X's that have been on the CAO before. It's big, it's close, and I don't blame Fuente for exploring their options with that. I don't know if they win. I don't know if they lose, but they would be remiss in not doing their brand a justice that it deserves if they didn't try to protect something that was somewhat close.
Well, when you look at it this way, I mean, Arturo Fuente is, obviously General STG is a big company. Arturo Fuente's been around a long time. I would say out of the family companies, they're probably the biggest, if not one of the biggest of the family companies. One of the most iconic. Opus X is a brand that almost any cigar smoker has at least heard of before, whether or not you've actually had one. The Opus X logo is very recognizable. It is a staple icon. So someone like, the Fuente family, obviously they're going to be protective of that. It's a very iconic, very specific brand. And this is
Yes.
not the first time that I've heard of other brands, and I'm not gonna mention any names either, but there's other brands that I know personally have told me, hey, Carlitos told us like he don't like the X on the band, we had to change it. So I mean, and I get it too. He doesn't do it maliciously. He does it because, well, I have a brand to protect as an image, and there's a lot of things
Well,
that go
it
into it,
just
like you
makes
said.
sense. If they went back, if and Jose can't really comment on this because it's an ongoing thing and he's smart to, but I sure as hell can. And so if they went back and said, all right, say say CIO is not allowed to use the X. What are we going to come out with next? The next year is going to be the Fuente C space A space O. I mean, and then you say, oh, well, it's just a letter. It just happens to be 3 letters and they're spaced apart, so they're all individual letters. So you got to protect it. But it's funny. Ed Sullivan mentioned in the comment section. This is a really good one. 2 booths away from us at the trade show, and 2 booths away from United Cigars, was a cigar called the El Abuelo Chisel. So we have a trademark on the Chisel name. David Garofalo of United Cigars has a trademark and whatnot and copyright on the name El Abuelo. So I'm walking by the booth, okay, getting the booth. I see Dave there with Lito getting a picture with this guy at this booth. And I go up and I'm like, what was that picture about? Like, oh, we went up his photo because he has a cigar on advertising called the El Abuelo Chisel. And I was like, so why is he taking a picture with you guys? He's like, well, after he was done, he wanted to take a picture with us because he said he wanted a picture with like some legends and whatnot. And I was like, I don't know if he understands that he can't do that. Like, you go up and talk to some, but it does happen everywhere, and it's stuff that comes up, and hopefully it doesn't become nasty. But even if it does, it's the court that deals with it. They get to figure out what it is. There's nothing. Carlito's not sitting there having a discussion with the president of General in a courtroom on this thing. So, but the El Abuelo Chisel thing was hilarious, and it was literally right in between our booths. So it was ironic to just walk past that. But trademark stuff is what it is. I wanted to bring it up. You mentioned Jose was on there. I just wanted to give my 2 cents on it. I know we got a lot more show to talk about and other stuff, so we can move on from there. But don't be a keyboard warrior and let people protect their brands.
Yeah, no, I agree. There's a lot there. And it's funny that he would take pictures with 2 legends out of 2 legends who have cigar trademarks that you're copying. So,
When you put together, yeah, dude, it was a riot.
Nicole brought up this point too. Something that comes to mind is an image they used with the Opus X that had more of a multicolored background. It's actually slightly similar to the colors on the CAO box. While it's not their normal design, I can see why it would be similar. So, yeah, I mean, you get into a lot of trademark and trade dress.
Yeah.
We went over a lot. So we did and Coop did. And Coop, I think, we got into it a little bit more than we did with Pete Johnson on the last 2 times that Pete was on each of our shows, which I think were like back to back. And we had both got into the whole trademark and trade dress. And Pete, knows that very well, which he's had to deal with, fallout from Monster Beverage Company, the energy drink, over his Monster series because he uses the word monster and he uses the color green, and he's had to fight it out saying, like, I'm using it in the cigar world for a cigar, they're using it in the beverage world, and how even though it's the same name, when it's 2 different products and 2 different categories, that's when you can kind of split it up. But if you're using 2 cigars and they're both called Monster, well, Pete Johnson's going to win because he has the trademark on Monster in the cigar industry. Just like La Flor Dominicana owns the Chisel in the cigar industry.
Yeah.
You come out with a cigar called the Chisel, La Flor Dominicana is going to win because they own that trademark.
And that has happened with Pete, with the name Monster.
Yep.
In terms and words that are close to it. And even though, like, I think the projects that it happened with, I won't get into it too much, are cool. I mean, if somebody gives you a cease and desist, you can fight it back. And if you fight it and they don't like it, then it doesn't work. It doesn't work. So you got to decide if it's worth the battle or not on that. And if they legally have it, they have it. And it is what it is. My opinion on the Opus thing, dude, that X, if they dropped the CAO on that, and that X was just the band that was on there, I'd be like, oh, Opus just is releasing some like Area 51 version of Opus X, is what I looked at it, and I was like, man, that's pretty close to me, being something similar. It wasn't just I read the. I know I said we were going to get off this, but it's too fun, and there's more people growing, so more people watching. They must have heard I'm going off on this, but they said that they've been using the X on the bands, which they have, and on the band that has the X, the new X, it does have the old way that they were using the X. It says BX2 or BX3. They use the LX2, LX3, LX1, those types of things. It still has that there. So this is a new X that hasn't been used. So it's going to be really interesting to watch. I don't think you'll see much more news about it, unless someone's paying attention to the court filings and when the date's going to be and what happens. You'd have to be, really busy, really bored to be tracking more of it. But I think it's a push. I think it's a push that on a push to kind of push the envelope on a product, and I don't think they're directly copying it, but whatever the design was, it got pretty damn close in my opinion.
Right. Well, look, I don't want to just steer right off the topic, but like you said, we gotta I want to move on to the trade show itself. The trade show. This was the first, I would say, normal trade show, and I use that term kind of loosely since IPCPR 2019. There was no trade show 2020. There was a trade show last year in 2021, albeit very smaller, a lot quieter, not as polished because of the way it was put together last minute, yada, yada, yada. You guys weren't there. A lot of people weren't there. So this year, folks like La Flor Dominicana, United, Selected Tobacco, McAuliffe, Casa Cuevas Foundation, Nick Melillo was there, all came back to the trade show. And it was great. And everyone that I talked to, like you guys and, the Gomez family who you work for, all very happy. Nick Melillo was excited to be there. Oliver and Nelson Alfonso excited to be there. The McAuliffe family was excited to be there. It was great, and it was great to see everyone back. And like you were saying, you were slammed. And I think people were excited to see LFD back, and it had been a couple of years, and it was like, oh, LFD's here, boom. And you guys were just nonstop busy, which is great for business. Same with United, Selected Tobacco. I talked to Oliver. They right out of the gate. I mean, I was doing an interview the first day, right in the morning, and I had a retailer who's been waiting to get an account with Selected, who wanted to carry Atabey and Byron. Jay Davis, actually. And he was like, as soon as I wrapped with Oliver, he was literally sitting there waiting. He goes, I know that normally, like, the media would get crap because I'm trying to place an order. He goes, but he's like, no, you had an appointment. You have time with Oliver. He's like, I will wait. He's like, but as soon as you're done, like, I want to place an order. So he actually sat with Nelson and waited while we did our interview. And then when he was done, we were going to go do an interview at the United booth because it was separate. And I said to Oliver, I go, I'm going to come back for that. Don't worry about it. Go take an order from Jay because he really wants to carry your brand. And he went, and ever since, we actually never made it back to United to do a video interview. The United booth was covered, and that article is actually available right now on SmokinTobacco.com. I just published it like an hour or two ago. So you can read all about what they debuted at United, and there's photos of all the products and stuff on display, like Red Anchor, Yaya, the Arnold Andre stuff, the Terra Nova, the Rocky Patel cigar bar. All of that is up there. You can read all about it. There's just no video interview, which, again, I'll get a little into more of that later. But, yeah, I mean, it was a crazy show. People came ready to buy. More people came this year. It was slammed. And, you guys were really slammed. You had all the Gomez's were there. Lito Jr. has been there in the past, but this was his first time going there, like, representing a cigar in the collection. You had John Wick there, which was really awesome. Tony Gomez. It's funny. You go to the bar at nighttime when everyone's hanging out, and there's just this crowd of people, and it's like a mob, and you literally always know where Tony is because he's so fucking tall that Tony Gomez's head just sticks out above the crowd. You literally look around, boom, you'll see Tony Gomez's face just above everybody.
And he's got such a distinct look too about him. He said, like John Wick, he's got that jet black hair. He's also got a distinct look, so it's not just like a tall guy around. It's like there's a tall guy who's dressed nicely, and he was a good looking dude. So you catch him real easy, which is great for me because we kind of roll together a lot of the times with different things. So I can go from one place to place, look around because I'm slightly above everybody's head for the most part, and I can really locate easily. So. But yeah, John Wick, dude, you definitely dead ringer for him on this one. He was dressed in like all black at least 2 nights too.
Nicole seems to think he looks more like Billy Walsh from Entourage.
John Wick was. The only thing that makes him not John Wick is I don't think Keanu Reeves is 6'8".
Yeah, I don't think so either.
But,
I mean that's pretty.
But
tall.
yeah, man, it was a good show. I got some time to go and see some other booths, not because we weren't busy, but when I step away from the booth, like I don't get to step away and like take a break. Like if I'm walking around the floor, I'm running into people that we see, running into that we do business with, running into retail partners, media. So it's not like you can escape the booth. But some of the reasons, the first day, I took 2 little stepaways from the booth intentionally because I try to make appointments. And the reason I try to make appointments and the reason I try to have my team make appointments is because I want them to have undivided attention. And I'll tell you, man, that first day, there was a lot of people coming by, grabbing you in the middle of meetings, slapping you on the butt. There's people that do butt slaps, interrupting, I would say.
Yeah, it was me.
And I wanted, yeah, well, no, you were fine, but you got a free pass. But there's a lot of times I was in a meeting with someone and someone would stand there and like stare at me from like a few feet away. And I'd turn to them like, I'll be with you in a few moments. And they would stand there again. So they said, is there something I'd help you? They're like, oh, I have a few questions about some product. And I'd be like, oh, do you want to make an appointment? Because I'm in the middle of a meeting. And they were like, oh, if you have some time now. And I'm like, I don't. I'm in the middle of an appointment. So it happened to me like 6 times in like 2 hours. So I stepped away so I didn't say something nasty, to a potential customer or a customer. But I was blown away by how little people respected people talking to other people. It's not like just a, hey, how you doing? Good to see you. I just wanted to stop and say hi real quick, finish your meeting, and then say hi to the other person and apologize or something like that. That's an okay thing if it's someone you haven't seen yet. But I'm talking like just straight up walking into your conversation and expecting you to divert your attention, which is also rude to the other person that I'm talking to. So I had a little bit of a challenge with that. But so advise to anybody that's listening, if you want some sit-down time, make an appointment. And if you're going to have some questions, make an appointment. Or if you come up, just ask a quick question. And, we have appointment times available.
Right.
So if you come up, hey, I was wondering if you're going to have any time. Yeah, just let me know. But that was a little bit surprising. And it happens every year. But this year, I felt like it was more that way. And I don't know why. But it just felt like there was a little bit more of that this year and years past, and that was my only frustration, really, with the show overall. There's things I can critique, but I don't. That has nothing to do with the PCA. Has nothing to do with anybody. It was just really surprising that there was, just a common decency to give people the time when they're talking to someone else.
Nicole said that LFD needs one of those fancy private booths for meetings. Maybe that's something to explore in the future.
That's actually not a bad idea. Or we could get really super pretentious and like set up like ropes around each section. So when somebody's in a meeting, we could put a little sign up, like quiet in meeting or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, some of the other manufacturers have done that. Fuente does that. I think J.C. Newman does that. I think Ashton does that. Gurkha has that. Where they have their own private meeting spaces in the middle of the booth that are like, it's like a room. So that way you're off the show floor. No one can see you. No one can come up and be like, hi, John Carney. Can I like get a photo and like ask you about No, he's in a meeting. So, especially,
I don't want people to say hi.
Oh, yeah, of course. But not maybe just when you're in the middle of a, $10,000 sale. I mean, that's kind of an important time.
Yeah. But I did get to see a lot of booths though, and I especially that last day on Tuesday, there wasn't a lot going on at all. In the afternoon on Monday, but I did get to see a lot of things. What? So you were there last year. What was the biggest difference and improvement that you noticed?
Overall, the show seemed a little bit more organized. Registration was a little bit more organized. The show floor layout was definitely fuller. There was more booths. I felt that the way the booths were laid out was pretty easy to navigate. The things I did not, it's more about the things I didn't like. So first of all, the thing I didn't like was last year we were actually allowed to roam around the show floor on Friday, and this year they weren't letting anyone in, and it was very aggravating because the problem is, maybe as a retailer, like, okay, I can understand, but with the media, like, when a retailer goes to the trade show, they're going there, they're buying, they're wandering around, like, okay, who's there? We, as media, like, as a retailer, you're going to go there, you're only going to spend so much. You're only going to buy from certain people. You already kind of know who you're going to meet with. As media, we have to try to meet with every single person on the show floor. Now, it's impossible, even with people who have teams, like the Cigar Coop team, and Half Wheel brings a lot of people, but the goal is to try to cover everybody, because the idea is you want to get everyone's information online so that everyone knows about it. Well, it's really difficult to do that when you only have 3 full days and then a half day, where the half day either people already leave or they already like got rid of all their stuff, or they're already starting to bang up the booth, and it's like it's not a lot of time for the amount of people that exhibit. Also, the Friday we were able to go in, kind of get the lay of the land, know where everyone is. I called you. And I think you remember this. I called you first thing Saturday morning. I go, where the fuck are you? I can't find the booth. I was late, and I was like, I don't want to be late because I knew you guys were going to be busy. It was your first show back since IPCPR, and it was like I'm running around with like, there's hundreds of exhibitors here. Where the hell are they? And I'm like trying to find. And it's like, I just felt like your first instance of being on the floor is that Saturday morning, and it's already crazy because you get VIPs, and it's like I just think it would be helpful if they let us roam around like they did last year. Even if we got to ask some questions. Maybe we're not shooting interviews because the booths aren't set up, but I can at least be like, hey, like, what are you going to have? Like, I can prioritize, like, this is where I need to go first because, like, oh, they're going to have this, and they're going to have this, and blah, 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 blah. And I can restructure my schedule. It's a whole thing. And Coop says, we have never been allowed on the floor during setup. Last year was a mistake. We have been told it's insurance reasons why we can't be there. I get it.
It's not. I'll be honest, to play devil's advocate on it, just for not insurance purposes, I mean, despite what people might think, like, I don't traditionally talk to you about really anything internal about LFD's business.
Right.
I don't need media around when I'm talking about yearly sales numbers, territory sales numbers, profit margins, and why we're determining the price on a cigar or something that we're doing. Things that I talk with my team about. My team has confidentiality agreements. I don't have confidentiality agreements with media, so I don't need the media coming around when we're doing that. Now, I will say, for the most part, the media, I believe, in this industry wouldn't use anything like that for nefarious reasons. But just because they wouldn't do that doesn't mean that I need to be sharing that personal information on accounts, customers, my business, and in the off chance that somebody hears it. So I will say that the privacy that you have and the ability to have discussions that you probably wouldn't have with retailers or media around on that first day, and that's when everybody does their sales meetings. That's the one time when we're there as manufacturers that we are, and people, doing the show, that have a chance to just speak to our teams without anybody around for the entire
Live from
time.
the J.C. Newman Cigar
around.
Studio in Boston, Massachusetts. Welcome to the Smokin Tabacco Show with your hosts, Matt Tobacco and Smokin Nicole.
I clicked the wrong screen. Sorry, I wanted to get
For those just joining us, that's our calls, our colors.
Sorry about that. But yeah, no, and I get it too, and I understand. I mean, it's just for me, and look, sometimes you have to be selfish about some shit too, right? For me, I wish I had that time for me, so I can be ready for the show because I don't care. But I mean, but I get it. I get it.
Was in the front row. I wish my booth was in the front row instead of the back left-hand corner. But we should have picked the booth. If we wanted that, we had to pick the booth earlier, get more points, whatever. So there's always things like that. But yeah, I mean, I see where you're coming from. but I'm going to tell you, then you're never going to get on the floor earlier. The time it doesn't make any sense, and it is personal, private time and
The
setup time.
the other
And
thing,
I also don't want to. I don't want you seeing my booth not set up.
the other thing that I would say that in terms of timing and being allowed on the floor is now, and I know Coop's gonna jump on my ass unless I fully explain why, and even then he'll probably get on my ass, and that's fine because I respect everything Coop has to say. But so now that they do a media press conference during the trade show, that media conference takes place at 10 a.m. on Monday. So we lose that extra entry hour on Monday. So we have to go to the press conference.
But you guys asked for the press conference.
No. I'm not saying I don't want the press conference. And this is why I said, like, the Coop will jump down my ass. We should still have the press conference. But I just wish it wasn't, like, at that time. Because, you know why all of this is probably, like, sore in my ass right now? Is because I did lose so much time on the trade show floor this year because of health issues with Nicole and then complications with some of our newer camera stuff, and we lost a lot of time. And that's why we didn't get to cover as much as we wanted to, because I had those issues. So yeah, I am a little extra sour graped over time on the show floor right now, and maybe that's a me thing, but I am fucking sour about it because I was just already so far behind. I was late to the meeting. There was just so many other complications. I walked in that meeting and I was just visibly annoyed. And Coop even knew. He was like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Dude, I can't right now. I'm already like 2 hours behind, and we're only an hour into the show." And here's Coop right here. It should have been at 9 a.m., not 10. And you know what? He's right. I wish it was before we could we lose that early entry hour.
Yeah.
There's 3 booths I could have covered in that hour on a day that I was already banking on when I was already behind. So that's one change I'd like to see them make.
It was something separate, so it should have been on and off time, in my opinion. But that's good feedback. You know what I mean? To give to me, do it earlier.
Don't get me wrong. I'm also not mad about that. I'm very happy, and I appreciate the PCA for doing that. I think it's more of a me problem because of my missing time. But it was like I was in there, and I was already freaking out that day because I already had some issues to deal with, and I'm just, all I could think of was like, I got to get on the show floor. I have to make up so much time right now. And I was just like, it was just like it's all I could think about. I was like, I'm so far behind right now. I need this time. But again, I do appreciate it, and there's good information that came out of that. One of the things that did come up in that press conference was the location of the trade show. Now, this is a topic that's been kind of floating around. Charlie and Brooks talked about this in their pre-show the week before the trade show started. There has been talk about, where's the trade show going to be after their contract ends in 2023. Now, from what we were told, and Greg Zimmerman is here with us in the comment section too, so he can chime in and correct me or clarify or add to this at all. From what he and Scott were saying was that they had asked and surveyed the retailers and the attendees to the trade show, if it was in Vegas or if it was in New Orleans, which one would you like better? And from what I understand, the general consensus was that we're going to come no matter where you have it, which I mean is a good thing because I feel, because it's not like you have one over the other and you're trying to make people happy. It's kind of like, well, wherever you have it, we're going to come. I know that Vegas can be expensive. I know that the convention center, if it was to move out of Venetian, convention center, from what I understand, they're doing some upgrades and renovations, so it's not available after the contract ends. Then you have New Orleans, which I know there was some concerns that they didn't like because, unlike Vegas where everything's kind of together, you'd have everyone kind of spread out in different hotels. There's not as many smoking area locations. It's a little bit more to orchestrate, so I think that's a big concern for them too. But
I also think, Matthew, the question was framed too about a change of the year. Like I believe there was a question asked. Was too. Would you want to be in New Orleans? And then the next question was, what do you think about New Orleans in April? Because it's an example of, I saw this online I saw this on a show yesterday. It's political, but I will bring it up. It was on Tucker Carlson yesterday, and he brought up a question. This is a reporter that asked Joe Biden, and he said something about 64% of people would prefer another candidate run other than him for president. And then Joe Biden quoted him back. He called him Jack or something like that. And he quoted back that 92% of people in the Democratic Party would vote for him. That was if Donald Trump was running against him. So it was like, if I'm going to shoot your dog, would you rather have me shoot your dog than shoot you, type of a thing. So it's like same type of question there. So if you reframe the question better, like, probably people don't want New Orleans, but if you said, hey, would you like New Orleans in April, you can see how people like New Orleans, and then you can also see how they like it at that time of the year. So I like that they added that extra question, because then you're going to get good information, because I think in years past, people have been like, do you like New Orleans? And it was like, well, I definitely don't like New Orleans in July and August. However, April, New Orleans is a little more appealing to me. So reframing, I think, that question, and they did do that, I believe. It was a big deal, and I think you're going to get some good feedback on it.
Yeah, and I know that Cooper bring up a good point. Well, I mean, I don't know if I don't know if it bothers me as much. Sometimes things that bother Coop more than they bother others. But I couldn't believe they went on about a 2024 show and it's 2022 and there's a lot to talk about. And there's still a lot to talk about. I think though, and I'll play devil's advocate here to Coop. I think that people are just I don't know if people are worried or if they're just so concerned. But people will just want to know, like, hey, so what's the state of the show? Because this has been the game for a couple of years, and like everyone kind of knows what to expect. And like now, if there's going to be a change, what happens? I think people just, whenever people hear like major change is possible, it's like, what are we gonna? Well, what does that mean? Where are we gonna go? What's gonna happen? And people just can't help but think like, well, what's gonna happen?
Yeah.
And I mean,
it
is what it is.
You have to plan we have to plan 2024 right now. I mean,
yeah.
You plan this type of thing overnight. This is years in advance. So if anybody's going to give any criticism on this, on saying, oh, we talked a lot about 2024, my criticism would be, why are we just talking about 2024 right now? And that's just being critical. So if you're going to say that, if we don't figure out 2024 in a little bit, within the next couple months, it's going to be a mess. So they need to get on top of it. And I see Greg posted there is available April 24th. Vegas is available in mid-July. So it's really interesting, but you have to plan this stuff years in advance.
You do.
You just got to do it. You got to do it for cost reasons, organizational purposes. The executive boards turn over every 3 years. So if you're not planned throughout that period of time, you're going to transition an executive board into different positions with no plan whatsoever. It's a really interesting thing.
Since you bring up the members of the board changing, so first, can I just say this too? I do want to give it, and not because Greg's on here and there's others too, but I do want to say that the current people who are at PCA, to me, and you've been around a lot longer, Coop's been around a lot longer, so you can have your own opinion. But from what I've been able to see on my own the last 2 years at the trade show, they've done a very good job. I do want to say that. They've done a good job. So, last year's show, as we've always said, like Coop and I have talked about, it has an asterisk next to it, not because of anything that they did, but because of the situation in the world. That trade show, we didn't even know was going to happen. They were able to put something together in 100 days, and it happened without a major collapse. I think that's enough to give them a huge pat on the back. They put that whole thing together in 100 days, and they were able to get retailers to commit on short notice. That's a huge win. This year, the trade show went even better. Way more people came back. There's some good things going on there. The show as a whole, I think, was a success, despite the fact that everyone came back sick. It is what it is. I mean, it's
going to happen, man.
It's not on them. I mean, that's going to happen.
No, it's going to happen. Everybody that was at any of those casinos in Vegas this week, there's a big outbreak of sicknesses around the country right now. They're getting it. The attitude of the team, though, the attitude of the PCA team was excellent.
Yes.
The attitude of the board directors was excellent.
Yeah.
From the top to bottom, they were really there to service, and it felt like it. It felt like they were there for us, rather than the reverse way. Like it felt like I paid for something, and I was getting service from it.
Right.
Which you ought to get whenever you put money into something. So I thought that was excellent. I think, we weren't at the show last year, but they also dodged a bullet from a huge impact of those big four manufacturers not being there, with COVID happening at the same time. If COVID hadn't happened and those big four hadn't been there, with the way that they got a little bit of extra time to kind of coordinate and plan that. That would have been a real situation that people would have talked about even heavier. But I will say one thing, it was a good show. A lot of people came to my booth early because there weren't on these other meetings, which was a good thing, but they're going to still come to my booth anyway. It's not a good thing to not have four of the biggest manufacturers in our industry not at the show. They provide infusion of money to help bring the cost of the show down. They take up larger space. They sponsor different things because they have bigger budgets. So they did do a great job with it. However, I think to take it to the next level next year, if they can get these companies to get involved in some capacity, and I threw around a couple ideas to the people from General that were there. I told the people from General, Sean Hardiman and Justin Andrews there, I said, you guys should do, because they were at a Room 101 booth, you guys should come and do small booths around the show. I go, put a booth in every corner and two booths in the middle. I go with different brand ambassadors and things like that. But it was positive. It was a good show. They did a great job. I think the next step is to get those big manufacturers back. Does the show absolutely need them? I don't know, but the industry certainly does need them. And if the show is going to be the representation of the industry, I would like to have those people there because, like I said, it just brings more money into the association, brings more sponsorship opportunities, and different things that can happen. And whenever you're missing the biggest players in the industry, there's going to be some sort of an impact on that.
One of the things that came up in the press conference, and I don't know if Greg's still with us, but one of the things he did say, because the question did come up about the Big Four, when it came to any conversations or any dialogue with them, the first thing that I remember that I will say right off the bat is that it sounded like talks with Davidoff, there was nothing. It was just dead air silence. When it came to Davidoff, nothing. But in terms of everyone else, it sounded, and Greg said this himself, it sounded like there was some chatter there. There was some talk. There was some things. There was some concerns that, the PCA had to take in from them, and there's a little bit. Now there was no guarantee. Hey, they're going to come back if we do. But there was conversation. Now, what happens with that conversation between now and next year's trade show? That's between those three companies and the board at the PCA and all the people who put on the show and all that. That's between them. And I'm sure as those developments happen and when they want us to know, we will know. But it sounded like there is some dialogue there. In terms of Davidoff, there was nothing. So it will be interesting to see what happens for next year. And John, that's an interesting idea. Those big companies have all those brands. Yeah, maybe you could, instead of having all these big giant booths for the big, even if 3 out of the 4 came, right? That's still better than none of them being there. And you know what? Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe they break it down a little bit, and they, and the argument. Look, I'll throw this in there too. There's an argument out there saying, well, do they really need to be there? No, they don't need to be there. Well, maybe financially, maybe that's true, but the reality is, regardless if that's true or not, they should be there. They should be at the trade show, supporting the PCA. They should be there, even for the retailers, just to connect with them, see them, show off their product. I think they should still be there, whether or not and maybe they downsize, and maybe like what you suggested, great idea. Maybe you break it down a little bit, spread it out a little bit. Maybe it makes it a different experience for them and for the people who come to see them. It's a very good idea. That's just my.
The reason I brought it up to General, the reason I brought it up to guys at General is I got
Greg
a good
has
relationship
confirmed that.
with Justin. Yeah, I got a good relationship with Justin. I have a friendship with Sean over the years. Who's with Forge, used to work for us, and I knew him when he was in Rhode Island. And I brought it up to him, and hopefully they take it back to their, they're not going to make the final decision, but hopefully take it back to the people that do, and they can offer that option. Because I think that'd be a great way. It also spreads some excitement across the floor. And the one thing that I did say to them is, you go around a lot of these booths, especially the big companies, when it gets slow, they all hang out. All the people that work there hang out. Drives me bonkers. It happens at our booth too. But if you spread those booths around, when it gets slower, say you've got Sean Williams with Cohiba, and he's at a booth, and then you've got Laurel with Macanudo at a booth, and you've got each different company around. when it gets slower, it's not just the clique hanging out together. It's, Sean's at his booth with a brand representative or a brand manager, or somebody can take orders and represent the product. So you're getting a little bit more personalized time with that person. And I thought that was excellent. And Davidoff, whatever, I don't know what the discussion was internally. I think we're just assuming. But, I mean, they did have a presence there at the show. They do distribute Ferio Tego. And it's Herkloff's brand. He owns it. They just distribute it. But you're still doing business with Davidoff when you buy that product at some certain capacity.
Correct.
Along the way where it trickles down. So they by default kind of did that. General by default kind of did that this year. And I think those guys are probably going to go back and say, hey, they could drop 15 different small little booths around with different brands and create passports where this is like the PCA 2023 General Cigar and Forge Cigar passport. There you go, guys. There's your idea. I'll give you my email address after the show, my phone number and bank account. You can send me over some money for the free consulting. But they can have that passport where you drop around each of those booths and got to see everybody. And it's not just one sit-down thing. It's a more positive, quicker interaction. So there's a lot of fun things that they could do to be involved in it. Greg, if you want to take that idea and pitch it to them, go ahead. There's just a lot of opportunities with it. Same thing with True Estate.
I was going to say, I kind of wish we kind of had Greg on with us at this point. I didn't know he was going to be watching tonight, but now it would be. I wish he was on here. We could just talk to him directly. But one thing I did notice is that Drew Estate had people walking on the show floor. There were people from Drew Estate that I know walking on the show floor.
Joe Grow was there, correct?
I didn't see Joe, but I saw some others.
I swear I saw him.
I saw some other Drew Estate employees.
Yeah. So they did something really smart. And I heard that they had a suite or something, but they did something really interesting and smart. And it's something that I think the PCA can actually go to them and talk about. They sponsored almost all the media. I know it because I made the video for our show and we put it at the end. And there was a lot of sponsorship from it. Half Wheel at the bottom. Anyway, and they were there. They had some presence walking around. But if PCA can go to them and say they obviously sponsored parts of things that were at the PCA. So if PCA can go to them, how can we work together? You're going to sponsor this media. How can we work together for you to sponsor parts of this show? It doesn't have to be the Brooklyn Bridge or the Manhattan Bridge setup. But how could we obviously you had interest in our show. So how could we get you to sponsor things directly and we can promote you and have a presence on the floor as well as the presence that you presented? They really created a hybrid version of participating in the show because they did participate financially.
They did.
They paid for things. And those are badges that were bought. Those were rooms that were bought or whatever. So they did participate in this show. Georgia State was there. Whether they had a booth or not, they were participants in that show. So I would go to them with this new hybrid version of participation you created. How can we also hybridly participate with you to financially benefit the show and benefit the retail attendees that are there?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that any ideas are good ideas, and I think that some of it should be tried, right? I mean, and John, to your credit, you always seem to think of all these different things, and a lot of things you come up with your own company, you guys have applied and they've worked out for you. There's no reason why some of these can't be tried, and that's my opinion. And I think that it's, especially with the PCA trying to engage with them, if they were willing to try something different to make a return to the show, I think it's worth trying. I mean, the consensus that I was hearing, the hubbub and the whispers and the grumblings that go on at the bar and everything outside of the show floor is, look, if this show is very successful, if this show goes off very well, then it's a good, what's the word I'm looking for? It's a good presentation to those companies to like, hey, look at how well this show went. Maybe you should come back and give it another shot. Even if you make changes, you do it differently, whatever. Here's a good example of like a well-run show, a show that went great for the. I would say that this show was a very good success. And if those companies are looking at how this show went, they had representatives there. the little that each of them had, there was someone from everyone there. So that they saw that. There's always a few people who think that the PCA is, the show was bad or whatever. I heard some negative comments from like a small handful of people, but other than that, the general consensus was overwhelmingly positive. I think that's enough reason for those companies to try again. And you know what? If they try again, they come back for 1 year, hopefully it's good, and they go, well, you know what? Maybe we can make this work. Worst case, what happens? They drop out again and they don't come the year after. I mean, not that we want that, but it's like, what do they have to lose? It's like, come back and make some adjustments, see if you can find a way to work. If not, then you don't come back. I mean, you got to at least try. What is it that Jordan always said? He couldn't fathom not trying for 7. It's like, just try it. What do you get to lose?
If I'm the PCA, General was there on their own decision by default because of the purchase of Room 101 and bringing that into the Forged brand. But they made a decision to bring the director of sales for Forged and Justin, with whatever his new title was.
Right.
He's pretty substantial in the company. So they brought some people that had some decision-making on the sales level. General was there kind of by default. Drew Estate made a conscious effort to be participants in this show, except having a booth. They're the first ones that I go get creative with because they made an effort to be there. And they obviously they dipped their feet into the water a little bit further. General's got their toes in. Drew Estate had their feet firmly standing in the water. So I'm going to go talk to them first. And I'm going to talk to all of them, obviously, and make them an equal priority. But I said, Drew Estate already kind of stepped in. They were there. So how do we get them to be more involved? How do we have hybrid decisions? Altadis really didn't have a big exposure there. They had brands they work with, that were part of the show. I don't believe AJ Fernandez was there either.
He was not there.
Yeah, their company wasn't there. So really, the major Altadis brands weren't really involved in that. And Davidoff had a little bit with the Ferio Tego thing, but you really had Drew Estate really putting up a flag, being like, hey, their boat was hanging around outside and they got off and visited the island. It was like a cruise ship, and General got their feet in the water. So there is obviously some interest with them. And again, creative ideas, hybrid stuff is really the important thing to focus on with them. So I hope they go that direction with it. Cool. 4 people twirling their thumbs. They were there to be mimes, man. They were there just to watch. They weren't there to actively sell anything. That brand's Matt right now. It hasn't really transitioned much. So they were there to socialize and be around and kind of view what it was. And hey, by the way, they most likely they own the brand, so they paid Matt to be out there. So they were going out protecting their investment, in my opinion, by having 2 people there watching it. It was like the government thing. Like if somebody's fixing a pothole, one person's fixing it, the other 4 people are watching and make sure it gets fixed. But that was really the approach on it. And I think that's probably what they were sent out to do.
Yeah. I can already tell by the comments that Coop's been making tonight so far that spare notes on Saturday night, willing that I'm still healthy enough to do it, which as of right now, like I said before, I think I may have already had it before, so it's really not hitting me as hard because I have some mild symptoms, but I can fight through this for the show. Nicole, however, is very, very in the hole. Friday that still happens. Saturday night, the spare notes show is going to be good because I can already tell Coop's got a lot to say.
A notable thing, obviously, it's got a lot of attention. There were a lot of really nice booths that weren't as elaborate as years past that did a great job. The Fuente JC Newman, obviously the JC Newman factory looks awesome. The Fuente booth was well done, and it wasn't as elaborate as years past. Nick Perdomo's booth was much smaller but very well done, and I'd be surprised if he didn't expand. The one that really, for me, and I don't know if this won an award or not, the Ashton booth was freaking beautiful. And it was a smaller version, and it was gorgeous, man.
It was very nice.
That really caught my eyes, where I was like, man, they put a lot of thought into how their salespeople were going to sell and how they were going to present themselves, and that booth was gorgeous.
So I'm trying to I have all of my my show photos on this laptop right here, and I'm looking for. I'm trying to see. Nicole will get mad that I'm trying to do this for the first time on my own. I'm trying to bring up a photo onto the screen for the show because I have photos of all the booths and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, I have a photo of the Ashton booth, and
You just drag and drop it right in the middle, man. Just drop it in the middle of the screen.
I'm just trying to find the photo right now as I sift
Yeah.
through. I have a lot of photos of the
But
show,
that-
and
that-
we'll be getting that out as soon as we can.
Yeah, that was a good booth, and I mean, Eric Espinosa's booth was very nice.
Oh yeah,
I
it
thought
was.
he did an excellent job with that. Placencia always has a really nice booth. Friends at Aganorsa, I think, did a great job with a small space. They elevated. They physically went up in real estate. They took their real estate and went upwards with it.
Right.
And that was a nice centerpiece right at the front of the show. So the creativity with the difference in booth space was excellent. It was nice to look at things. Our booth was a couple spots smaller than years past. Not noticeable because it still kind of looks the same, but yeah, a lot of creativity out there. I was really impressed with that. The only negative thing I would say, and this is probably ignorance to me
Mm-hmm.
on my end, is we pre-registered, right? So the exhibitors and then the attendees have two separate registration areas. I couldn't figure out what the difference was between pre-registration and not registering because each line was the same. So we waited in line quite a bit as exhibitors to get the badges. But I think that was just because of confusion of what pre-registration was, pre-registered and not pre. It was really confusing categories, and that was probably ignorance on my part from not reading things, which traditionally happens on our side of the business where we get emails and don't pay attention to them as much as we should. But it was a smooth process for me because I put somebody in line for 45 minutes prior to me showing up. So there's the LFD booth.
So can we see this right now?
Do you have the picture? Yeah. Do you have the picture of the Ashton booth though? Because that Ashton booth was awesome.
I was trying to find. I know I took photos of it, but I can't find it in the folder. But yeah, so this was John's booth, part of it at La Flor Dominicana. Very nice booth. So I have a question for you, by the way. Is that the same booth that you've had in years past?
Mm-hmm.
It is. Okay. I thought it looked familiar.
Yeah. One of the most unique comments that I heard about a booth in the show cover I've read so far was something very tiny, but I thought was really unique, and I'm going to add it to our booth next year. Charlie made a comment about the Aganorsa booth and how they used etched glass stickers, essentially on the front of their display cases.
Oh,
And
okay.
he mentioned that was kind of a nice touch. Dude, he mentioned it in like 2 sentences, and when I was reading it, it was one of the few that I read, and I was like, man, that's such a great idea. So we have the plexiglass. So I'm going to get some etched glass LFD logos and make it part of the glass, as it does a nice touch. The picture just showed me, reminded me of it. Adding a little extra branding. So that was a cool random, something small that that I think you don't really notice until you see it, type of a thing. But that was one of the more interesting comments of something minute at a booth that really did makes a big difference. So I'm going to take that and put it into our booth structure next year. And it's a simple thing to do to make just to brand more.
Yeah, I'm trying to find that Ashton booth. I know I took photos of it too. That's crazy. But yeah, no, there was a lot of nice.
I feel like everybody, man. The biggest compliment I have, I feel like everybody that was involved in the PCA had some involvement in it, either on the board or working for it, excuse me, was just nicer. Like everybody just seemed nice. Like it didn't seem like I was there to inconvenience. And I don't know if they made a point to do that or if it was just naturally because they're just like, we're going to be more positive. I think Scott Pierce is generally a positive person.
Right.
I think Greg's generally a very positive person too. I don't always agree with everything that both of them do. And we have good dialogues together on disagreements, which I think is fine and healthy. But I will say, if it wasn't intentional, a discussion that they had or a direction given, I think that Scott and Greg's positive nature may have trickled downhill as everyone just seemed nicer.
Is this it right here? What booth is this? I think this might be the one. Oh yeah, there it is. There's the Ashton booth. That's it right there. I glazed right by it. That's the Ashton booth. from one angle. But it's very nice. They have that if you look right in the front, there's like this little counter space, and they have this nice presentation with the La Roma de Cuba ashtrays right here, all different colors. And then on the back, I don't think I have a photo of the back side, but it's like every side of it had all the their different brands that they have. So that was the Ashton booth. Very nice, like you said, very very clean. Smaller than before. You can see in the background there's LFD with the red the hanger above. So yeah, that was the Ashton booth. Yeah, very nice. I mean, Selected Tobacco. They brought a new booth, a bigger booth than years past. If you read my write-up on the booth that went out yesterday, I kind of described it as it was more top covered. So like you went into it, and then it wasn't very like open. It was kind of like covered on the top, so it's like you were inside a room, and because of their elegance that they have and the stuff that they show, being that ultra premium. It was almost like being in like a luxury car dealership. It was almost like you went into like a Mercedes dealership. It was very nice. It was black carpet.
If there was a luxury car in there, it wouldn't have been out of place.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Very nice. Nicole mentioned the Toscano booth. The Toscano booth was really nice. They primarily showcased their new Master Aged, the 3 new cigars that they have in their Master Age collection. And on the back side of the booth, it was branded as such, and there was a display case. I'll show you right here. This was the back side of the Toscano booth at the PCA show, which was
nice.
Very nice. And they had some swag items that were on brand for that too, that retailers will also be getting. Very cool. Very nice presentation that they had there. I told Capolini it was great. They had cappuccino. They were serving cappuccino there. I don't think they were supposed to, but then again, most of the booths had drinks and stuff they were handing out, which was nice. Another thing,
the hospitality at that booth was good.
Oh,
I went by and Capolini gave me one of their new cigars, got me a coffee, and you guys came up right after actually, and then I jumped back to the booth.
Oh yeah, I gave him shit. I said, "Why are you in this booth?"
Yeah, other than the LFD booth, that was the only time the whole Smokin Tabacco team was entirely together for media coverage. It was in that one booth. They gave him full attention.
So since I'm smoking it and it came up, this is the presentation of the Solus at the La Flor Dominicana booth that you guys did have on display. That is the box design. If you're familiar with Lennox, it's identical, albeit just a different cigar blend and a different design. But that round box with the magnetic top is the same as the Lennox. John, is this box also going to be I know the Lennox box you can use as an ashtray after. Is this going to have that same design into it? I can't really tell from the photos if it has the notches in it.
So we had these are the first 2 boxes that exist. So we did have some discussion on it. One thing that we discussed, the box top's round, so we talked about putting a little slit in the top of it so you could put the box top in it.
Yep.
And display the top. We did discuss potentially doing an ashtray version with it as well. Naturally, it can be an ashtray anyway, just because of the way it's set up. But we may put those little slots in it. But there's definitely, I'm going to push to have a slot in the top where you can display the top of the box, because the branding on that is beautiful. Now, the one question we do get regularly when we do round boxes, you can see there towards the top of the cigars where we would put a little slit display boxes. People say, "Oh, it's a round thing again. It's hard to put on the shelf." Lennox is sold so well, and the question is, it's a round box. Well, how does it sell? It sells great. Well, then the round box really isn't an issue, and the product does represent itself in a way where spending some time to maybe find a spot to present it well in your shop does well with it. But yeah, the Solus is a nice meat. It's more medium bodied than I was expecting. It really is an antithesis of Lennox. And putting those side by side is going to be really fun in the stores. Most likely that product's going to be out in October. Same price point as the Lennox at $13.20 per cigar. And then we also launched a product it's been out in the market in regards to saying we were going to release it. 4 or 5 years ago, Lido produced a product called the Ash Hole that we were actively promoting at one of the PCA shows when it was IPCPR. But it's actually back this year. It's being made in our astronomy laboratory, which is our ashtray laboratory at our factory. And this is a resin ashtray design that Lito developed, and that's on the bottom there. It's called the Ash Hole, and that's going into production this month as well. So we'll see that in the next 60 to 90 days in retail stores. Also, and we had a bunch of ashtrays from Astronomy on display, some with M&Ms inside
I
of
was
it.
just gonna
And
pull that
the
up. There it
sky's the
is.
limit. Yeah, we actually sold it at the show physically, that one, and then we took orders for a lot of them. I was impressed, and honestly, it looks cool, and I really like it. Something I would want, but that doesn't always translate to what the retailers want, the consumers want. But we sold a bunch of them, so apparently people really liked it. We've got plans to do some with M&Ms. With branded M&Ms in the future. Skittles was one we got a
Yeah.
lot of requests for, and someone actually requested Swedish Fish too. So there'll be a lot of fun astronomy ashtray products coming. And those are all real small batch products. We're not making tens of thousands of them. So each one's unique. Yeah, there's a selected tobacco booth. Man, that's a great picture. That was a
Yeah.
really good angle.
That's a really nice booth that they had. And John, I don't know if you got to see, but right in the middle, you see that middle display case, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I have a close up
Yep.
of what is in there. I'm pretty sure you saw that too. It's badass. I ran into Oliver and Dave and Ed Santamaria, and I look at Ed Santamaria, and he's like, they're looking at me like, what do you think of the booth? And I go, can I just give you my Amex now? And Ed Santamaria looked at me like he didn't get it. And I was like, no, Ed, like that Atabey ashtray is badass. Can I just give you my card now? He just laughed.
So, dude, I had seen
Look at
those
that.
products. I'd seen all of these like 2 years ago. So these have been in development for several years,
Oh yeah.
and I saw a rough copy of their product catalog that was being reviewed by them, and so I've been aware of these products for a while, and seeing them in person was pretty fascinating. And Nelson does incredible packaging. The cigars inside match it, but it was fun to finally see these brands in person, the ashtrays in person, because I saw them right after they got developed, before they got really put into production for this and sold. So it was fun after a couple of years to have some familiarity, and walking through there and seeing some really nice pieces of of cigar packaging art.
Yeah, this one you're looking at right here. This is the last one was an Atabey humidor that's going to contain 5 of every Atabey cigar in the line, and it will be available in 2023. That was just for presentation this year. That humidor will not go on sale till 2023. The other thing about that humidor is that, from what I understand, talking to Oliver, is that there's no extra cost for that humidor. That is ordered based on the cigars inside. And it also doesn't necessarily have to be a package deal. So a retailer can buy that set, sell the cigars out of it, and then they can either maybe do like a raffle for the humidor. They can sell it separately. It's not contingent on being a solid package. I'm sure that some retailers, maybe they'll have a customer who wants to buy the whole thing, and that's fine. But from what I understand, they were told this can be separated. There's only 250 of those being made. On the screen right now, I have the Alfonso. New line from Selected Tobacco, the Añejos number 1. There's going to be I think it's four sizes. I think it's actually no, it might be 6. It might be 6 sizes, 200 boxes each per release. And then in addition to that, they also had, and I'll pull it up on screen here. There's the new Byron that was on display, and I'm trying to find that. I know it's in. I think it's this one right here. The Byron 1850, which was on display. Now, there's going to be 4 sizes of this available to Byron accounts. And then in addition, anyone who does a Byron event or a Selected Tobacco event, whatever, or a dinner or something like that, they will have the option to purchase 2 other sizes. I believe a Perfecto and a 9-inch Solomon. That'll be exclusive to those specific retailers that hold an event. These will both be shipping this fall. But that Atabey humidor I brought up before, that won't be available till next year. So, I mean, that was something cool that they had. And there's a lot of stuff in here. I think you guys had really nice display and presentation. I don't have it with me. I don't think I have it on here. I can maybe try to get it on here. I wanted to get the picture of the Golden Bowl because I wanted to talk about that. That was very interesting. I'm going to see if I can airdrop that to this laptop because I think it's only on my phone. Because I wanted to show that because that was very, very interesting. And if you read and you look at my if you look at the write-up on SmokingTobacco.com, the LFD booth article is already up on display. You can read all about it. You can see the photo for yourself. I am going to see if I can do this very quickly on the show here. Yeah, I can. Boom. Accept. Save to downloads. And that should be up there now. Because this is awesome. And you can talk about this too. I mean, this is... and we're going to be doing some more coverage with this too later in the year. Sorry, I just got to get that.
Well, not just later in the year, man. It's less than a month away. So August 11th, the auction for the Golden Bull NFT will begin. And you can go to laflordominicana.com/FT, get on the list. I had people that just got on the list. They didn't want to buy it, but they wanted to watch. There was a lot of people that are interested in buying, and there's only going to be 7 of them. But here on Smokin Tabacco, we're going to be doing my plan. We haven't really talked about this internally.
There it is.
More than just the fact that we're going to do it. And that's the actual NFT pictured in the iPad there, the digital artwork. And we're going to be doing a live stream broadcast of essentially the last hour of the auction. So we're going to probably be up late doing it. But we're going to do a live stream of the last hour of the auction to watch how the bidding goes, where it's at. We're going to smoke Golden Bulls then as well. That's the last time we'll be able to really smoke them without buying them from a secondary market. Because it's really important for us to protect the integrity of the NFT for those people that do buy. So, rifling out samples of it, that's not something that's going to be able to happen. We got to protect that asset for the people that are the owners. But you're looking at the gold bullion humidor there, and the LFD logo is in 18 karat gold. That gold bullion humidor is going to be given to the NFT winners as a gift. It's not part of the NFT. It doesn't have to be transferred when ownership transfers. If somebody sells it, what the NFT is the digital contract inside the digital image is the opportunity to buy up to 70 Golden Bulls a month. That's 5 14-count boxes for the owners of that. So it's a really fascinating thing. And it said on August 11th, we'll be doing a live stream of the auction and seeing where that's at. So that's going to be really fun. We've got some guests that are come on and smoke with us too. Some of the usual suspects, Matthew Tobacco will be on there.
Yes, I will be.
Guests. But so that'll be fun. And we may do another one that's going to last for about 2 weeks. Each auction will be for 48 hours. So it's going to be really fun to watch and a lot of excitement around it. And I think it's going to have an impact of how NFTs may work in the cigar world. After that, I think there's a lot of companies interested in watching to see if they can maybe pull something off similar or build on it and do something different. But we expect a lot of success with that. And there was a lot of excitement around that and discussion and question on it. Oh, there you go. You got the actual video of the NFT. That's great.
Yeah, so that's the actual, what you're seeing, and I'll play that one more time. That's the actual NFT file that you get when you purchase the NFT.
And that one right there is NFT number 1. You can see on the bottom right-hand corner.
Yeah.
It counts down to 001. So that's the actual first. They're all the same other than the number. But that one you're looking at is NFT number 1, and that box is Bullion Humidor number 1.
Now, the other thing that was interesting about that humidor too, Tony had said that the actual LFD logo on the lid is an 18 karat solid gold.
Yes,
which
is.
That's pretty badass. I mean, that thing it was done well.
Yeah, and those are made by a humidor company out of Spain. So that one shipped in from Spain just like 2 days before the show, and we brought it with us. So yeah, there was a lot of excitement around the booth for that. It was a big comeback for us being back at the show, and I think we made a splash. We're making we finished a large company expansion in 2019, right before the pandemic shut everybody down. So we're starting to see that product come on the shelves now. So there's a lot of fun things we got going on throughout the end of the year. This last 6 months, I was sitting with Tony and Lito at the end, and I said, man, we got a busy 6 months ahead of us at the end of the year. We got a busy 18 months, but certainly the next 6 are going to be quite busy with different projects. There's festivals we're involved in and some fun corporate events. And there was just a lot of fun discussion with new retailers. I felt like the new retailers that came in had real high-end lounges and high-end products that they were offering. So the cigar industry is strong right now. and there's going to be some retraction because we just had a big boom. But with that retraction, it's not going to be substantial. We're going to stay big, and there's going to be growth opportunity. But I was really impressed with how the retailers came in, raising the bar with experience-based things. While we're on the topic of gold, I know you went by to the El Septimo booth. I find their cigars quite expensive.
Dude, I was just going to bring this up on the screen.
Yeah, they had $5.5 million lighters on display, $1.5 million bottle of cognac, which is in the background there. They were super cool to see. They didn't overwhelm me. I wasn't like blown away by them because it's just not in my price range.
I got to hold one.
But I'll tell you, man, they were beautiful.
Yeah,
they were absolutely stunning pieces of jewelry, really.
So the thing here with your scene, this is at the El Septimo booth. There's 3 lighters, one of each. They're all here in the picture. Zaya had told us they were all sold at the show at $5.5 million piece. These were all sold, and they sold very quickly. So they're gone. In the background, to the top right, next to this, the one on the pedestal. If you look just to the right of it, you'll see another gold thing. That's a gold bottle of cognac, which they claim is from a barrel that was found in Napoleon's castle. That was Napoleon's cognac. It's over 200 years old. I know that there was a video. I saw Jeff Borshowitz from Corona actually got to sample some of that and taste it himself. But Zaya did say, he was like, "Oh, we'll come back. We're going to drink it because now that the bottle is open, we have to drink it. You can't let it sit." So that bottle actually was consumed at the PCA trade show. That is quite the bottle of cognac to own. And then right behind that, there's a gold pyramid here. I don't know if I have another picture of it, but that was very interesting. That's their new Emperor Collection Solomon humidor. And inside there's a gold pen. That thing was ridiculous. I think that thing was all solid gold. This is like the crazier part of the trade show, when you just see. This is what it looked like when it was open. Just some crazy stuff. I mean, this is the stuff you go to the trade and you're just like, who's buying that? Just ridiculous. Just crazy stuff. But like I said, it was a good show overall. There was a lot of cool stuff there. Yeah, Nicole said in the first 15 minutes, those 3 gold lighters were sold in the first 15 minutes. So just ridiculous. I mean, it was a good show. It was a solid show. People did a lot of business. I want to know who bought those $5 million lighters. Do you think
they were stunning? And I mean,
do you think Jeff bought one?
Somebody, I don't know. I don't think he did, but I wouldn't be.
I'm thinking of who has the capacity to buy that. I mean,
but I wouldn't be shocked if one showed up. You know, I wouldn't be shocked. I know El Septimo's grown with his brand. I live here in Orlando, and it's one of the spots I spend a lot of time at. So I wouldn't be shocked if one showed up there. I'd be surprised, but definitely not shocked by any means. But those probably went to independent buyers.
Yeah.
There was probably people that were there that there's a lot of people in the cigar business that are connected to some of these wealthy people. So I wouldn't be shocked if it went through a retailer or if it was coordinated by a retail outlet, but it was most likely something of that value went to a private buyer.
There was one more photo I did want to show here that I thought would be interesting to share. We presented all of our awards at the trade show, but some of them we got mostly in the videos. Only think one of them we got a photo of the presentation. Here it is. And this is Steve and Cindy Saka receiving the Smokin Tabacco Award for Most Innovation, and that was for the Stillwell Star last year. That was Cindy and Steve receiving their award at the Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust booth. So just congratulations again to them.
I'm giving him my own personal award for the most clever and fun name, the Saka Khan Black.
Oh my God, that cigar was good too.
Out of all the names and stuff he's done, Saka Khan to me is absolutely hilarious and great at the same time. That award is not just the best named product out there. I think there's some maybe better names, but that's the most on-brand, dialed-in name that you could run with, and I hope it's successful. I hope they continue to make them because it's absolutely freaking hilarious and awesome.
And I smoked that with him, And Nicole has one that she hasn't had yet, but man, that cigar was good too. That was a good cigar. You'll like that cigar
Do you
a
know
lot.
one thing? Obviously he's got really good cigars, and they're in our wheelhouse as cigar smokers.
Yeah.
But I encourage people. They're not the same cigars, but they're coming out of the same factory. Foundations and all those kind of same. And I've been smoking some of the Hoya de Nicaragua products recently, and their factory's just been real hot for the last 5 to 10 years, and they've got some cool stuff that's come out over the last year or so too. So if you like those products, I mean, give those other ones a shot too, because I mean they're making some really fun cigars for other brand owners, and they've got some great cigars on their own too. So that's another company too. If I was PCA, I'd be like, "You're already here on the show floor. Let's get you on the show. Let's get you in. What are we going to do to get you in?" There was a lot of cigars sold at that trade show from that factory this year.
Yeah, the other thing, there's one more thing I wanted to bring up and show. As I go through this, there's like one more thing. But no, it's all stuff that people want to know and want to see. Another highly anticipated thing from the trade show that everyone was waiting to see was this. And we finally got to see it on Sunday. That is the humidor for the Fuente Padron collaboration project. Now, I know this is one that a lot of people have been asking about, a lot of people were curious about. That is the actual humidor. One side being Padron, one side being Fuente. We did get to see that. There was a huge celebration for it. And I do have the photos of the cigars themselves that I'll bring up really quickly. I have to scroll back in here really quick, but I do have photos. So this is, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to figure out which one's which. I think this is the Padron one. So if I remember correctly, I think that's the Padron one. The Padron made for Fuente. And then Fuente made one for Padron. And this is the first time anyone has gotten to see them. I think this is the Fuente one with the white ribbons on it. Yeah, and then that's the Fuente one that's made for Padron. So they were on display, which was really awesome and really cool to see. Nicole made a comment here. I feel like so many people forget that a lot of cigars come out of their factories. I've been telling Matthew we need to do like a cigar lineage episode, almost like family tree style of who is made at whose factory. Yeah, you'll be here forever. It's a great idea, but you'll be here forever.
Yeah, you'll be there forever. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
that'd be like a 7-hour-long show to work through it. The Fuente Padron project, the inside of the packaging for me was pretty cool. Inside the humidor,
oh yeah,
they had it like the artwork was like photographs of Jose Orlando and Carlos Fuente Sr. It was really cool on the inside. I thought that was really good. And I talked to the Padron family about that a few times, and I was like, man, it was really cool how they decided to do that on the inside, and it was beautiful stuff. And another thing that was really cool to show, man, since I'm smoking an Opus, did you swing by Manny Ararte's booth with the Opus X Society stuff? Man, the wallets and things that he did were really cool.
I did, and
they were beautiful.
Really nice stuff. And I have a photo of probably his best thing. I think I have no, actually I don't have it in this folder. I have a picture of the green Opus cabinet that's like $80,000, and I know where
I think he designed that Padron humidor, the Padron Fuente humidor too. I think he did that.
I think he
did. I don't know if
did.
that's accurate, but I'm pretty confident in saying that he did that too.
Based on the shape of the box, it has that same shape of some of the Opus and Don Carlos boxes, that rounded top with the squared bottom with the groove, and it has that similar shape to like almost like like the Eye of the Shark box, or like some of like the Oro Oscuro, the long big Oro, the yellow Opus box has that like rounded top and it comes down to like a square edge bottom. It has like that same kind of shape, so it's definitely had some Fuente input on that, and I think that maybe he was involved in that too. And then it had the nice white lacquer that Fuente is known for. As the Padron boxes for the most part are very raw, kind of rustic, old school, just the raw cedar. So that definitely had a lot of Fuente input into the design aspect of it, which is very interesting. But yeah, I think he might have had something to do with that too. He seems to be the new design guy over there with them that's kind of doing a lot of their stuff, which is nice to see. I mean, they, the Opus brand has been around a long time, but like Fuente's just been like really getting after it with all their design stuff. And they got the Opus X Society stuff, really doing a great job. Now, I mean, even with you guys, it's nice to see, more brands kind of going off the path of just the cigars and doing, more accessories and just the designs. I mean, that gold bullion humidor is one of a kind. The ashtrays that Lito's doing, very, very cool, very unique. And Lito's doing it himself. You know what I mean? It's not like you guys were like, we hired this like accessories company and they sent some designs and Lito's like, yeah, I like that one. No, like Lito's doing this himself.
Yeah, he made them.
Yeah.
He made them.
Yeah. So but it's cool. It's like you have the guy who's making the cigars also making the accessories, which is, not everyone's doing that. Not that that's bad on them, but it's...
He's not just blending this. This is the ashtray's even another level, man, though, because he didn't just, it's not just being made in the factory that he's the chef of, he literally physically made those ashtrays that were on display. Like he himself made those.
Oh yeah, I know. It's incredible. Now, is he the only one? Like, did Tony have anything to do with it? Or was this all just Lito?
The ashtray thing's like 99% Lito. Tony does the designing and stuff on the top, the graphic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
With his dad, because he's not, he's not big with Adobe. The Adobe suite's not Lito's forte.
Right.
But 99% of that's his. Is physically him doing it, and it's quite impressive. And it was funny because we were talking like when we did the press release on the ashtrays. There's a lot of stories in the cigar industry of BS from time to time. But I don't know if you can hear me. Am I in the show? There we go. But when I was saying to Tony, I was like, dude, when I was reading that press release, I was like, there's no way this is real. And then I went to the factory, and there's like literally an ashtray lab there in our conference room. It's really cool to see people getting hands-on on this and getting real creative. And I think a lot of it was the uncertainty. When you took a bunch of creative people and gave them all this extra time they had when they were locked down in their houses, people had to come up with things to do. You and I started a show. I started doing the gourmet smoke sessions and the hacking gourmet and quarantine grilling and started learning video production and some basic artistic stuff. Tony started doing graphic design. Lito started doing ashtrays. Carlito and got involved in, really getting involved in accessories with Manny. And so it's just, you put these creative people and gave them all this extra time to be creative. They had to have things to come up with. And I think we're seeing the results of that right now. And really the creativity being pushed to another level. And it's really elegant too. And all of it's real tastefully done. It's great to see that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'm really excited to see what else they come up with in the future. I mean, you guys also have. I want to hit the news because we've got all kind of wrapped up in the show stuff. I still want to do the news, but before I do, I also want to just mention you guys also have that. You have that special club that with the gold cutter, which is very interesting too. I don't feel like we've talked about it and we know about it, but I don't know if a lot of people know that it's something else that LFD does. With the gold, what is it like?
It's called Flor d'Or, and we did sell one at the trade show this year.
Oh, you did?
So the Flor d'Or, the Flor d'Or Club is a club for the members of the cutter that buy one of our gold Flor d'Or cutters. And those club members have access to club exclusive products. So we did sell one at the show this year to a close friend of mine, so the Flor d'Or Club still exists. That's a bespoke product too. Each one's handmade in Miami with our jeweler partner down there, and designed by Lito too. And so that's a fun project, and that still goes on. We still have inquiries about that from time to time as well.
Yeah, that's just another thing that makes you guys so different too. At LFD, just that you are involved in so many other things other than just the cigars, and that's nice. There's some like diversification there with your product portfolio and the services, the things you guys can do. Just really makes you guys stand out. And I think it's one of the things that's it's bringing LFD up that ladder of just like that premier. You guys are not just some small boutique factory. You guys are really bringing everything you got into your brand. One thing I want to hit the news really quick. Our news this week is once again brought to you by McAuliffe Cigars. If you head over to McAuliffeCigars.com today, you can sign up to become an official ambassador where you get your official ambassador number and your ambassador coin. And while you're at it, head over to Facebook and sign up to join the McAuliffe Ambassadors group, where you can hang out with all your fellow ambassadors. This week, this one hits a little close to home for us, and we'll wrap up soon too. I know I don't want to keep you too long, but this one kind of hits close to home to us. 724, our good friend Kurt Kendall at 724. Vintage Cigar Distributors of New England taps James Schaefer to lead sales. Now, James was formerly of Nat Sherman. He will now come in and oversee all of the sales for the 724 brand that Kurt's been out there really slinging that, really pushing that brand out there. And I know I probably speak for you when I say this, we're both really happy for him too. I mean, Kurt's a great guy. 724 is a great brand. It's a classic brand. It's been around a long time right here in New Hampshire. That's a big, I think that's a good move for him.
Yeah, I mean, Jimmy's a great guy. He's got a lot of experience in the business. I think the big thing for Kurt, in being a close friend of mine, the big thing he's going to get out of Jimmy is Jimmy's not a guy who's going to oversell something in terms of himself and what he's going to bring to the table. When Jimmy says he's going to do something, he's going to do it. So there's a lot of accountability that's going to be there on that level to the brand and to what Kurt's brought. And that's a really iconic brand. 724 used to be the largest Cuban cigar maker in the world in Manchester, New Hampshire. And bringing a guy like Jimmy on is going to bring a lot of credibility to the service that's provided when you interact with that company as a retailer, as a consumer, and overall. And, he brings a positive reputation to that brand. And I think that is good news. And it's something that I'm happy to see. And for that brand that deserves it, and then also for Kurt as a friend, he deserves that. And I think it's going to be a successful venture for him and grow the brand in a way that Kurt's wanted to but hasn't been able to.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be good stuff for him moving forward. And we, obviously I wish Kurt all the best. And we did catch up with 724 and Kurt Kendall at the booth. And that coverage has not been processed yet, but it will be out soon. So keep an eye out for that. We'll bring you all of what's going on. He's got some fun cigars that he's come out with in the last year. It's Hustler 5 and Dime. I don't know if you've had it yet. Great cigar.
I've smoked it several times. It's excellent.
I think that cigar is going to be on our list this year.
It's actually a barber pole. It
Yeah.
doesn't look like it until you get close to it. It's a barber pole with two very dark wrappers. I think it's Habano and San Andreas, and it's good, real good. I really enjoyed it, and something different. You don't see dark on dark like that. It really brings a unique dynamic to the product.
Yeah, I think that cigar is going to be on our list this year. That cigar is just fantastic. I think that's this show has gone longer than we normally go.
We had a lot to talk about.
We did have a lot to talk about, and I keep doing this. I don't know why. But yeah, no, there was a lot to talk about. It was a big show, a lot to do. Wow, I'm exhausted from it still, and we're sick now. So now we're dealing with that.
I got back. I avoided. Fortunately, I had COVID before the show. It sucked when I had it, and then I was also sick 10 days before the show. With something. It wasn't COVID, fortunately, but I kind of got my sicknesses out of the way before I got there. So really, what you're hearing here is just tired and a lot of talking, and a lot of dryness in the air, and a lot of cigars. I didn't over smoke. I really probably only had like 3 or 4 cigars at most a day. But so I came back today. This is just a funny story. I guess could be news. So can you throw the McAuliffe logo back up again? I got some more cigar industry news for you.
Oh, Cigar Industry News brought to you by McAuliffe Cigars.
Yeah. So today there was a labor reduction at my homestead. I fired my nanny today.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So today was supposed to be a sleep-in day for me. I got in at like midnight last night. Got the car back here. Got to the house. My wife was very generous and stayed at her mother's house last night with the baby as much as I wanted to see her so I could get some sleeping in. And it was really cool. When I got back to the house, my dog was excited to see me. He jumped on the bed. He was up my face. My baby was excited. It was great to see my wife this morning around like 8. And I planned on going to sleep shortly after that. And I did. And then my phone started buzzing around 11:30 multiple times. I ignored every other phone calls for the most part this morning just to get some sleep. And it was my wife. And I jumped on my security cameras. Cameras everywhere in the house, and my nanny had put my daughter to sleep in a separate room, and then she went to sleep on the couch. And the baby was awake for about 30 minutes on her own, trying to climb out of the crib, and she's getting very mobile now. And so my wife was trying to get a way to get a hold of her because she couldn't get her on the phone. She couldn't get a hold of me on my phone. And so we have a mobile app that opens our garage door. And every time the garage door opens, Jonathan, UP, the useless pup,
That's right.
aka Snake Dog, goes ballistic. So she thought, let me open the garage door. Jonathan will go ballistic. So UP actually woke up my nanny, and at the end of her shift, we did have a labor reduction here at the house where we've moved on to different nanny. So that's a breaking cigar industry news on my front.
Yeah, I mean, if you had a busy show, first you guys are sick, you have a busy show, you come home, trying to rehab, you got to fire the nanny. This has just been, you've had your hands full over there. So, for those who don't know, because, I mean, none of you probably have Carney's phone number and get to text him like I do. There's something funny, and I'm going to bring this up on the air because this is what I like to do. What's funny is, anytime you go to text John, he always has Jonathan has silenced his notifications. And it's like, he's always on Do Not Disturb. Are you ever not on Do Not Disturb? I just feel like, even during the show, I was trying to call you, and it would go, I'm like,
my
fucking...
phone goes my phone goes off Do Not Disturb at 9 a.m. and it goes on Do Not Disturb, the focus mode, at 6 p.m. every day. So I had it on during the day today just to get a little bit of rest because I just got in. I figure there's no cigar emergencies, so I'll get it. Now, if you can obviously push through it. So my wife called twice, and when she calls, it does ring the first time. You can set that up. But yeah, my phone's on off of Do Not Disturb from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern time every night. I do catch and I do reply to people after. But the reason I did that is just to be focused and be present with my family when I'm home. I'm still very active on my phone in the evening. But also a lot of time I'm on an airplane too. So you get a lot of times where I'm jumping on airplanes. When I'm on an airplane, it's always on Do Not Disturb. So there's a good portion of the time it's on there, but I'm still active. But the main reason I do that is to just be present with my family in the evenings when I'm here. And that's kind of serviced me real well and made me less phone dependent. So if anybody's looking to be less phone dependent, that's a good way to do it. I mean, it takes a little bit of time for you to get used to it, but then once you do, you start prioritizing things a little bit differently.
Oh, yeah, I was just busting your balls. You didn't have to give me a full explanation. That's okay. I just want to give you a hard time. But before we go, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who's watching tonight. Thank you for watching all of our coverage and being patient as we get it all out. And it'll get out a little bit every day as we move forward. One thing I wanted to bring up is we do have a giveaway that's live right now. I'll pull up. And now that I know how to put the photos up on the screen, like, I'm going to do this like all the time. So this is it right here. It's a giveaway brought to you by none other than our friends at Drew Estate. There is 2 sets of these, so 2 lucky winners will be picked for the backpack, the spray can lighter, the hat, the Sticks and Sips book. You can get into this by going over to our social media, finding the post, share it, tag your friends, all that fun stuff, and head over to smokintabacco.com. Sign up for our newsletter so you can stay up to date on all of our information and stuff that we put out. This is a cool giveaway. And like I said, there's 2 sets of these, so two lucky winners will get this set. So make sure you head over to Smokin Tabacco, check that out, enter, tag your friends, share the post, the whole gig. You guys know how it's done. And 2 lucky winners will be picked on next week's show. When we go live, we'll pick 2 winners. So that is up and live right now. Last thing before we go, how'd that cigar go, by the way?
It was awesome. Thank you so much. It was good to celebrate it with you, and I think that was an appropriate cigar to celebrate your marriage, and which was a great time too.
Yeah.
We had an awesome time with that. Thanks for all the people that participated in it and watched virtually. We had a good time. People asked what my job was. I was best man, ring bearer, matron of honor. I got asked what my adverbs.
Adverbs?
What is it? I said I don't know, because I said matron of honor is a female thing, so I referred to myself as it during the wedding. I was an it.
Ah, okay.
but we had a great time, and I did my job. The rings were on the fingers around the trade show floor. So congratulations to you guys, and thanks for having me part of that too. It was definitely a special day and a special show because of that.
Well, we're honored to have you there, and we appreciate it. So thank you for being there. You're also you were also the witness too, so that was cool. You're actually on the certificate as witness, Jonathan M. Carney, which is cool. Nicole said, "LOL, you were everything. You were everything to us. You were our everything that day." So thank you, John. It was special to have you there. But that's gonna do it for our show this week, guys. I think John and I are pretty tapped out. My throat is getting pretty dry and sore. I don't know how much more I can talk, and I think John's in the same boat. So I gotta cut it here. I mean, we did as much as we can to recap the show. Hopefully, at this point, God willing, there will still be a Spare Notes on Saturday night. So we'll cover a lot more of that with Coop. So tune in for that. Spare Notes is back, 9 p.m. Eastern, Saturday night. Catch us Monday night on How About That Cigar with Matt, Garrett, Justin, and Mike the Cigar Hustler, I believe, will be there as well. Yeah, I'm mentally exhausted still.
We'll see you then.
We'll see you then. We'll see you then. But all right, guys, that's going to do it. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Subscribe on YouTube for all the show coverage. Visit SmokinTabacco.com for all the written stuff and to sign up for our newsletter for more information and coverage from PCA 2022 and everything beyond. We'll see you next week. Take care.